Hello everyone, my name is Peter, but I also go by the Mutton Chop Guy. Why? Well, yeah. Do you like stories? I like stories. I like reading a lot of stories lately. And as somebody who grew up in the 90s as a closeted bisexual in the LDS church,
Say what?
I come to realize going into my 30s now that I really do like storytelling. And one thing I've learned recently, especially during this time of the year 2020, where we all got stuck in our houses for about 4 to 5 months, I had a lot of time to sit to myself and read a lot of stories. But then I suddenly realized that there was something missing in these stories that I didn't quite understand what it was that I was missing out of them. Until after kind of falling into a rabbit hole of information about why certain characters in my childhood did I connect with that I never really understood until rather recently. And it's interesting to sit here and think about when it comes to the LGBT community in cinema and any form of storytelling mediums, that we have a strange background in terms of cinema, in terms of our portrayal and representation. So during this time of quarantine where we all got stuck in our houses for 4 to 5 months, I set out on a quest to find more stories that I can enjoy, in particular when it came to the LGBT community. As somebody who is growing up in the LDS church, not actually having the chance to find characters or anything of that nature to represent themselves and identify with on a personal level, this is pretty much where we're ending up now. So what I am doing is I'm carving out my own little space, my own little area amongst the internet here on YouTube and various other podcast platforms such as Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, once I finally get on there. That I decided to go on this quest to find this type of material, and one area I found myself going into was in manga and anime.
What? Knew it.
Stop letting him make you realize stuff.
Now, I'm sure most of you are probably sitting here thinking, well, Mutton Chop Guy, of course you go into manga and anime, because that's the best place you can go to find LGBT representation in a lot of stories. Yes, that may be true, but there was something I also came to discover during my little exploration into the manga world, going back into it, I should say, because growing up in junior high, I actually got into manga. That was actually my first storytelling medium that I really delved into when it came from Japanese culture. Now, yes, like most 90s babies, they grew up with the classic anime shows that were on the TV, such as Sailor Moon, Cardcaptor Sakura, Pokemon, and then later down the road we got Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, the classic kid ones that were shown on, Kids WB and like Fox Kids. Wow, I really just showed my age, didn't I? But it's funny because growing up in junior high, I was always told that there was 3 main super genres that I needed to be aware of. And boy, oh boy, do I feel really stupid now that I really believe that my friends told me that this is how it is. So in junior high, I was told that there are 3 main categories. You had Yuri, Yaoi, and Hentai. Which, to them, they told me that Yuri was lesbian, Yaoi was gay, and Hentai was just straight manga. Like, they weren't porn or anything of that nature. There was nothing sexual about those terms in junior high, oddly enough. I don't know why. But I come to quickly realize that, yeah, I had bad friends in junior high, and I'm really stupid going into my 30s just learning that these terms were completely wrong. But we all need to learn in our own ways, right? That's kind of how us as human beings learn to be better than ourselves, our previous selves. I don't know. So as I was delving into the manga world and trying to find, what I thought was something for me as a cisgender male bisexual person, that yaoi isn't what I thought it was. And once I started delving more and more into it and learning the history and the terminology of things got really weird, at least for me. And that's It's just because nothing really made any sense after delving deeper and deeper into the manga world and learning all these different terminologies of these different genres / demographic genres, which I don't understand how you can call them genres when they're actually just target demographics. It's weird. So, as you probably saw from the title of this podcast, which I'm naming the Lingua Manga Podcast, it's one of those disparaging things that I come to realize that these terminologies are kind of not well etched out here in the West. And what I mean here in the West, I mean outside of the Asian markets, if you didn't know that. I don't know why I'm clarifying that. Anyways, so, of course, you're probably sitting there wondering, well, Mutton Chop Guy, if yaoi wasn't the thing you were looking for, what did you find? I'm sure you found something. Yes, I did find something. I found something that I was head over heels madly in love with the instant I found it. And that is a particular genre that doesn't actually get a whole lot of coverage here in the West. For some reason. I could understand when you actually look into this particular genre with the extreme themes that they delve into. However, to sit here and tell me that this particular genre is just not for everybody, but yaoi is, even though it's kind of the same thing, is weird.
Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
So, you're probably wondering, Mutton Chop Guy, what is the genre you're talking about? What is this mystical, magical genre that you have found that you are so happy to talk about all of a sudden? Well, I'm glad you guys asked. It's known as geikomi, or over here in the West for layman's terms, because, nomenclatures and terminologies get so muddled over here by the time it actually reaches over here in the West. We know it as bara, and I can understand from certain points of views about bara and why it is not as popular over here in the West. And one thing that a lot of people always want to point out to me when it comes to bara is the character archetypes that we find within bara, in particular their body sizes. Which, if you don't know, if you look at any considered BL/yaoi franchise, you'll notice that a lot of these characters are very willowy and skinny and known as Bishonen, or beautiful boys. Bara is I wouldn't say the exact opposite, but they're on a different end of the spectrum when it comes to masculine forms. Otherwise, you probably know it as bear culture within the gay community, which shouldn't surprise anyone. So, I will certainly tell you this, that the thing that I came to discover is that we have something like BL, being as popular as it is, being what people call gay manga, actually not being what people are trying to tell me what it is. And that's what I'm setting out to do with this podcast. What I'm going to set myself up for and be ridiculed upon, because who in the world would ever want to do this, except for the few people in the past that has made videos on it / podcasts on it back in like 2014. And the only current YouTube videos that you can find about bara or any geikomi is
for your yaoi loving ass, or for your unhip but curious ass edumacation. And today's word is bara.
Yeah, that. No offense to Crispy Nats, it's just that kind of personality is a little too much for me sometimes.
My emotions! My emotions!
So, why did I call my podcast the Lingua Manga Podcast? Well, there's a lovely little visual novel that in recent times, especially during quarantine, I fell madly in love with, because the story is absolutely riveting, and it's one of those things that I wish everybody knew, but it's going to take some time for people to warm up to, because I have to cover a few things in it.
Are you sure about that?
So, with that being said, what is it that came from this visual novel? Well, there's a particular little world building thing known as the lingua, and it's a reference to a certain language term called the lingua franca, which, if you don't know, the lingua franca is a mixed language that you will find in the Mediterranean area, and it's a combination mixture thing between Arabic, Spanish, Italian, French, all those areas around the Mediterranean Sea. And it was a language that was a generalized, unified language amongst everybody there. That way they can promote trade and actually trade amongst each other without having any issues on that, if that makes any sense.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
So that's what I'm setting out to do with this podcast, is I want to clear up and clarify these terms that people keep mixing up, because I will certainly tell you this right now. The majority of the mangas that I was reading during the time of quarantine that would be considered Geikomi or Bara were actually being labeled as Yaoi BL, and that's not right, because that's not what it is. One of the big determining things that if you come to realize about Yaoi and Bara is that Yaoi is written by women for women, and Bara is written by queer authors for a queer audience.
What?
As it's been told to me by various outlets. Though it's mostly gay men writing for a gay male audience, which is totally fine. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of questions for me, and that's okay. I understand that, because you're watching a random video with a random person who's using avatars from a me creator, and you're probably wondering, why does it look like that? Well, don't worry. I'll answer that question right now for you. It's because I'm broke as shit, and every time I try to pay my close friend, who's a wonderful, talented artist, for the commissions I need to make avatars for this project, life gets in the way and says, hey, this money, this needs to go to this now. You don't need that art. You need to do this now. And I hate it, because I want to move forward with these ideas that I have and want to talk about the things I want to talk about. But, when things cost money, you have to kind of put things on the back burner. So what I have done is just pretty much download a phone app and created pretty much a set of avatars for myself. In the meantime, until I can actually save up the money to get a lot of these stills taken care of. Yeah, that's one of the main things you're going to start learning very quickly, is that, yeah, I'm broke as shit, but you know what? I like creating things, and I just like talking about things I really want to talk about. So if you like listening to people talk about things on end for minutes on end, I would say, then you have come to the right place on the strange part of the internet, which is MySpace on the internet.
Good thing I brought my vape.
So I'm sure most of you are probably asking the questions like, what got me into anime and manga? Well, if you were listening earlier in the episode, I said that I grew up watching anime because of the classic animes that were being shown during the mid to late 90s, as well as the early 2000s and the rise of Toonami. So, I also had things like Big O, Outlaw Star, Cowboy Bebop, Gundam Wing, things of that nature that came onto Toonami and stuff like that. I've watched, and of course the classic ones that I told you. Now, if you're wondering how I got into manga, is that in junior high, I met a couple friends that were reading manga, and they got me into reading manga quickly thereafter. And the first manga I ever read was Ranma Half. If you never read Ranma Half, I do highly suggest reading it. It is a fantastic story. I absolutely loved it. Go give it a read. You won't be disappointed.
Okay.
So, now you must be asking your question, well, Mutton Chop Guy, you're doing a podcast, so what got you into podcasting? Well, I started a podcast way back in the day in terms of 2016, so I don't know how 4 years can be way back in the day. But I did a year-long challenge of doing a podcast on a subject matter that I really liked talking about. That only lasted a year, and then I stopped doing it. And then about a year and a half later, I started up another podcast that's still going, and I'm just recently moving it onto YouTube and doing a video format on that, because that particular podcast actually needs visual aids for me to facilitate what I'm talking about on the subject matters pertaining within that podcast, which I will get into later in the episode. But now you're probably asking me, how did I find Bara and finding visual novels in that category? Well, during casual internet browsing, as I'm going to refer to it, I stumbled upon a video for a visual novel, or at least they call it a visual novel, I don't know, called See No Evil. And my goodness, the character models that I saw in there are definitely the type of men that I like to see. Which, if you don't know, yes, I like the big and burly.
I like 'em big, I like 'em chunky, I like 'em big,
yes, that was a Motomoto reference because I have no shame for liking big burly men.
Knew it.
Stop letting him make you realize stuff.
Yeah. So, as quarantine kind of came around, I kind of found myself, again, like I said in the beginning of this episode, where I was looking for stories that were pertaining more to non-heterosexual characters because I was just so bored with the current characters. And, you know, as somebody who has recently discovered through the many traits that I share with my mother, I've come to learn that I really do enjoy romance. Or stories that just have a good, strong romantic subplot within them. The main reason why I like romance is I like to see a budding, blossoming relationship between two people just grow and become a beautiful thing. I like to see the kind of the struggles that people have within a relationship, that they both come out on top and have a stronger relationship for it. That's the things that I like. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are probably sitting there going, well, Mutton Chop Guy, have you looked into yaoi? Most of it is very tragic. Yes. So is Bara can be too. Bara can be rather tragic, and yes, it does make me sad. However, I like stories that make me feel things. Regardless of how they make me feel, I like it when stories make me feel something. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. So when it comes to this podcast in particular, it's not going to be just manga, but it's pretty much going to be anything that uses the term bara in their terminologies, because that's where I've been finding a lot of stories that I really have been connecting with these characters on such a level that I've been wanting to on any character in the mainstream media now that I'm not getting because Hollywood doesn't know how to freaking portray somebody as a gay or bisexual or any part of the LGBT community that isn't a freaking punchline from like the early 90s into the early 2000s to just these archetypes that are just stereotypes, and it's just so goddamn annoying. Yeah. So I'm setting out on a quest to just find people who write these kinds of stories. Instead of waiting for Hollywood to give me the stories that I want, I might as well just go out there and find it. I'm sure, like how there's indie game developers, I'm sure there's independent authors out there who are self-publishing any of their works so they can get it out there. And that's what I'm going to be looking for, because why am I waiting for a corporation like, or a conglomerate like Hollywood to give me the things I want when they can't even fulfill that? On their own level with heterosexual romantic subplots, like, for crying out loud, who can sit here and watch a movie that you see the female and the male protagonists stare at each other for a long period of time while piano music is playing somewhere in the background and flower petals are sputtering around in the mid and foreground and background, and that's how your relationship starts? Like, what? No, where is the buildup of actually formulating this relationship and showing the schisms to formulate this relationship? Why does things just have to be assumed that they're going to be put together? That's not how relationships work. That's not how reality works. So why do we keep doing this? I don't understand why we need to shoehorn in these kind of relationships. You know what I mean? It makes me sad. It makes me a very sad boy. Man, excuse me, I'm a man. I'm in my 30s. I should be saying man. Why did I just say that? Anyways, so now you're probably going to be asking me, well, Mutton Chop Guy, does that mean you don't like yaoi or BL at all? No, that's not true. I found a good amount of BL and yaoi stuff that I do like and I do enjoy, because I felt like the portrayal of these characters were more aligned to me, or I was able to believe these characters much better than what I've seen in other formats of yaoi. Now, if you're asking me if I'm into Yuri, I haven't really delved into Yuri, but I want to, because why would I just talk about gay stuff without even talking about Yuri or any of the other forms of the LGBT community? Because I'd rather not use Hollywood's portrayals as a way for me to benchmark these types of people. So instead, I might as well actually get it from the people who live those character lives, such as, you know, being a part of the LGBT community. So now you're probably sitting there asking, well, if you're also doing manga, are you going to do any other forms of manga, like manhwas, all the other ones from other various countries? Yes, I actually have quite a few of them that I'm very, very excited to talk about. So please stay tuned for those episodes because those are going to be a lot of fun for me. I'm very excited on those. Yeah, I'm sure there's somebody sitting there thinking this question that with Bara having so much fur in it, does that make me a furry? I will answer that question in a later episode. Traitor! Because these first 3 episodes are going to be a lot of the kind of educational content stuff that I want to get out of the way before I start delving into just talking about stories and what I like about these stories. The main reason is because during my time before I started launching this podcast, I started to delve into the history between Bara and Yaoi and Yuri and started seeing all these different types of histories kind of correlating with each other. And it started painting a picture for me that made me very scared. And so what I'm going to tell you right now is that if you stay tuned to the second episode, you will actually see me delve into the history of Bara and its evolution into Geikomi and its correlation between Yaoi and Yuri, because there's a very interesting picture that I want to point out. Not only that is that, yes, I did notice that a lot of things in the Bara category have a lot of fur in it.
It's funny because it's true.
So, yeah, I'm going to address that and I will answer that question on that episode. It will be the 3rd episode. So, hopefully, I actually have all 3 episodes out at once so that way I can get this all out of the way and we can immediately get right into the good stuff of all these amazing stories. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are probably asking me the questions, well, besides Bara, what other genres do you like in anime/manga? Well, first things first, Bara doesn't have any animes, and that's the sad part.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Secondly, I'm a dude. I like shonen anime. I like shonen manga. Who would have thought? But I also do like shoujo. You know, The Vision of Escaflowne is one of my personal favorite shoujo mangas/animes. It's because it has a love triangle romantic subplot in it that I really like. Like, I really do like that type of storytelling. It's one of those things that just warms my heart.
I don't recall accidentally ingesting poison, and yet here you are trying to make me vomit.
But yeah, I also like things like mecha and isekai, and I like a lot of stories. To me, as long as the story has a very strong romantic subplot that is believable and that I can be emotionally invested in, you're pretty much going to sign me up for 2 thumbs up. Pretty much that's how it's going to be. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are probably going to be asking me that since I've found Bara and really enjoying Bara, what kind of kinks do I have that comes from that? Well, I would certainly say I don't have a lot of the kinks that people explore within themes that you find in Bara. However, I will certainly say that, yeah, I like the big and burly dudes. I also have a penchant for bald men, and so if you want to see the most idealized person who fits both categories of being a big, burly, bald dude, all you have to look at is, somebody like Brian Shaw, world's strongest man, Brian Shaw. Oh god, somebody's gonna show him this and I'm gonna be so embarrassed. Please don't do that. Anyways, yeah, so that pretty much shows you kind of the things that I'm into. The other thing I'll certainly say that when it comes to manga in specific, and especially what I found in Bara, one of the things I like seeing the most is seeing 2 guys kissing, especially if they're 2 big burly dudes.
I know you're a little slut.
There's just something about how these mangakas actually really showcase these things, and they're just tops for me. I mean, when you look at these big and burly characters, I mean, just look how pretty they all are. They're so pretty.
Stop it. Get some help.
Anyways, I should probably stop before I get a little too out of hand. Anyways, so I'm sure there's a couple more questions you guys have, which I know this one I want to get out of the way right now because I don't like this whole idea of people propping up a persona on the internet that is false. So, sure, some of you might be asking if I'm single or married. I'm married. I'm happily married.
I heard that. I wish I didn't hear that, but I just heard that.
I've been happily married to my husband for almost 10 years now at the time of this recording.
That was cute. I liked that. I liked that a lot.
So I don't want to lie to anyone and just say, oh yeah, no, I'm single and not be single because then I'm leading false hope into people, and I'm not that type of person. I find that extremely cruel to do to people, and I don't want to do that.
Bless you.
So I'm going to admit, yes, I'm happily married to this lovely man, and that's my dog that you're seeing next to him as well. So really nice. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are probably asking me the next question: does my husband like anime/manga? Unfortunately, no. He's not into that type of medium, and it's okay. I know some of you are probably saying that's a deal breaker and I should break up with him now. No. He does like stories, and he likes really good, compelling stories. It's just that particular medium is not his thing. As he would put it, it's the Jeff Winger, Paul Rudd argument.
I see the appeal, and I would never take it away from anyone, but I would also never stand in line for it.
Yeah, that one. So that's pretty much it. He, former Navy, that gives you any kind of inclinations, you know? Anyways, I'm sure you guys are probably asking me, Mutton Chop Guy, what's your favorite bar artist? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Well, anyone who draws any characters big and burly, I'm going to be a part of. Like, I'm totally going to sign up because I like the characters. But if we're talking about particular artists, without just jumping to Dakame, I just want to say Dakame has really set a precedent when it comes to this particular genre because the amount of detail this guy puts into his work. And especially when it comes to body hair, like, goddamn, when people draw body hair really well, it really works for me. Like, it really works for me.
We know.
But if I had to put one person as like the top echelon for me, it would be Jiraiya, and it's not because of how well he does his art, which if you haven't seen his art, holy crap, that is freaking amazing. But it's more of his background that I really actually align with, just because, as he said in an interview, growing up, he had a lot of people telling him that he's just really, really skinny and he's really, really small. He needs to eat more to actually get bigger, and he needed to do that and get bigger, and he had a difficult time doing so, and I'm just the same way, because as you can probably see, I'm skinny as a pencil, and it's one of my biggest insecurities. And I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but with how I grew up and people kind of berating me for my size, just like how Jiraiya got, you can now probably see why I'm attracted to big burly men, because if people are telling me that this was not desirable, then the opposite must have been what is desirable, because, you know, that's how kids' psychology works, I guess. I'm not sure if that's even true. I'll just put this out here right now. I'm not a psychology major. I've taken psychology a number of times, but it does not make me an all-around expert about my own psychology and psychosexual problem thing, whatever the term I'm looking for here. Anyways, probably move on from that, right? Yes, let's move on from there. So, I'm sure now you guys are probably sitting there going, Mutton Chop Guy, what are some of your favorite hobbies? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Besides reading and consuming media that has really good romance stuff in it, I like to write. I do like taking the time and exercising my creative juices in terms of creative writing. I like writing fiction. That's just who I am. And I will certainly tell you, with the projects I have going on in terms of my writing, you know, I just enjoy that. I just enjoy storytelling a whole lot. So it's something that I just like to do. The other hobbies that I also like to have is just pretty much anything that involves art. I'm totally down for. You know, Music is literally the one and only instrument medium thing that is able to exert and express my emotions properly. It's the only way I can actually circumvent a lot of the emotions that I feel is through music. So music is extremely important to me as well. And with that being said, one of my favorite hobbies is called gloving. And if you don't know, I'm just going to... And if you're not watching the YouTube side of it, gloving is basically when you stick lights in gloves, and then you stick your hands in the gloves with the lights on the fingertips, and then you move them around to music. as a rudimentary way of explaining it. But yes, that is one of my personal favorite hobbies because it's one of those things that really help define my identity as a person, and I just love it so much to the point that, like I said earlier in the episode, that I have another podcast. And I'm going to shameless shield that over here. So if you're actually interested in learning more about gloving and everything that entails, go ahead and check out my other channel if you want. You don't have to. It's just there if you want to. You know, it's just one of those things. So now I'm sure a lot of you are probably asking me, the final question I'm going to be asking is, Mutton Chop Guy, do you have any social media that we can follow you on? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Well, first of all, I do have an Instagram that I do post seldomly on. I usually post pictures of my dog and maybe a couple light show videos. If you want to watch those are totally cool. You don't have to, but if you like seeing pictures of my Basset Hound, who's absolutely adorable, go ahead and check that out. I haven't really set up a Facebook page because, one, I don't know how Facebook is going to take somebody making a podcast about explicit gay content like Baramanga tends to have, and secondly, I just don't really know where I actually should be posting up in terms of social media platforms. Now, I know a lot of you are probably saying, well, Mutton Chop Guy, shouldn't you be on Twitter for all this? Yeah, I could be on Twitter, but I'm not. And I've never been on Twitter, and how Twitter has been now, from what I've been told, I really am scared to be on Twitter. It's because Twitter is a scary place with scary people doing scary things, and that's just the thing for me right now, is that it's very scary. So I don't have one. However, if you guys really, really, really want me to have one, please voice that opinion. If you guys tell me, I will do it. I will make the Twitter account just for you guys, if it makes it a lot easier for people to find my content, and for me to actually find the people who like this kind of content, because there's not a lot of people around me who like Baramanga, and I've only met so far one person in my personal life that knows Baramanga and also thoroughly enjoys Baramanga. So yes, I do have one person that I can talk to about it, but I would like to talk to way more people about it because I really, really, really like Baramanga, and I really, really, really want to talk about it. So yeah, if you're looking for other places to hit me up at, I am on Reddit, I'm on Discord, so if you guys also want a Discord server for this, I can totally set one up. I probably would set one up by the time I actually get done with these episodes, because that's probably how I'm going to be. But just let me know if you guys want me to be on a particular platform, because you feel like that would be the best place for me to be. Please let me know, and I will work on doing that. I'm just nervous about using Twitter. That's just the thing. I'm just very nervous about using Twitter. So, but yes, I'm going to close off this episode, considering that this episode has gone over well 30 minutes, because there was just a lot of things I need to cover, and I need to break out this whole awkward thing. I swear to God, this is like the 100th take that I've done for this episode, and I will certainly say I feel pretty satisfied with this one. So I'm hoping you guys do enjoy the content that I'm creating. And if you guys are wondering if I have a Patreon, no, I don't have a Patreon yet, because I don't know if that's something I actually want to do, nor do I know if that's what people want me to do. So if you guys are interested in supporting me, right now what I have going is on the Anchor.fm site, where I host the audio portion of this podcast. There is a way to donate money to me. I have that open at least, but if you guys are wanting me to launch a Patreon so we can actually have something like that going, I can do that. I just, again, would like you guys to voice your opinions of things, so that way I know. It's the only way I can know. Unfortunately, the internet does not give me the power to read your minds, therefore I can't know what you guys want and don't want. So please do not hesitate to let me know. But yes, thank you so much for actually taking the time and listening to this very awkward first episode that I've ever done for a new podcast project that I'm having go for myself. But this is a journey, and I hope you guys enjoy the journey with me. But yes, thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you guys enjoy yourselves in this time on this weird, bizarre part of the internet that I'm calling my home. And I'll see you guys all in the next one.